Texas Networkers, a show about networking across DFW. However, today we're going to LA because we want to interview Elena Cardone. So we have her here with us this morning. She's an actress, a model, a professional shooter. You're going to have to tell us more about that. And she is part of building an empire and also has her own show. So we are so glad to have you here, Elena. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Just one little correction. I'm coming to you from Miami.
Miami. Ah, nice. Well, I was all sorry about that.
Okay, I lived in LA for over 20 years. So I'm an LA girl too.
Nice. Well, you know what? Wherever you're from, we are so glad to have you because we are excited about what you're bringing to us today. Encouraging, motivating, and but first thing I want to know is tell me about this professional shooting. I'd like to know about that.
Well, I'm not a professional shooter, but I am a competition shooter. So I do what's called 3-gun, where you compete basically with pistol, rifle, and tactical shotgun. So each stage will be a variation of whatever weapon you're supposed to use, and you hit various targets at certain times. So it's a sport that I love, that I'm passionate about, but I'm not professional. This is what I do for my living. It's just a passion of mine that I love, and so anytime I have the opportunity to compete, I compete.
Well, I have to say, if you're a competitor in guns, then you're probably professional to me.
Well, thank you. I will tell you that I am very good in terms of the regular sort of civilian, but in the competition world, when I'm competing against my big league guy and girlfriends, they just make me look like I'm a little turtle out there. I'm so slow.
I doubt Elena is ever considered a little turtle.
So Elena, tell us a little bit about your family and how you met Grant and just kind of that part of your life.
Well, I met Grant in Los Angeles. I was on a commercial shoot. He was friends with the director. He showed up to the shoot. I didn't think anything of him. Grant was not my type at all. I had only dated rock starry type guys and actors. I was in that world being an actress myself. And so he seemed like a business type, not my type. And so he got my number from the director, and that was a big turnoff for me. I was like, who does that? Who gives somebody else his number? But he called me. I had a phone conversation with him. It did not go well for him. And from that first phone call, I did not respond to his next phone call for 13 months. But in between that time, he called me twice a month, every month for 13 months with 0 return phone calls. So that's how I met him.
So what made you finally accept his call?
Well, because at that time, I was a competitor sporting clay competition shooter. I was ranked 10th in California in the female division. And so that's different. Anyway, we don't have to get into that. He found that out from a good friend of mine, and he finally left a message on my machine saying, hey, I rented the shooting range for the whole day if you want to come with me. And so I was like, okay, fine. I am very
finally wore me down.
honey. And so he found my Achilles heel or my kryptonite, my weakness, and so that's how he got me to return his phone call. And then when I went on the shooting range with him, I was like, well, he's not as bad as I originally thought, but he still wasn't the type. But then after a while, and he finagled his way into my group, I finally just fell in love with him, which was really weird. Because I had never fallen in love like that before. It was always like a love at first sight kind of a thing for me. So, the friendship really was established first, and I fell in love with him. And of course, what we have today is a really beautiful relationship that we have 2 children. Now we just adopted 2 kittens 2 days ago. So we've added to our family, and we really support in our endeavors. And we're not perfect, but we figured a lot of things out. We figured out how to help each other reach our heightened levels of success together, operating as a coordinated group, meaning he and I, two or more as a group, us operating together on the same page, knowing who does what in the relationship has really helped catapult us to another level.
It's interesting because I was listening to some of your podcasts and listening to you talk about marriage, being married to Grant, and how you've had to make yourself accessible and be an asset to him. And I think that's awesome. But let's go back a little bit before that. I mean, you came from New Orleans. Can you tell us a little bit about that, who you were before you met Grant?
Well, in New Orleans, I was a wild chick. I was wild. I mean, my teen years were crazy. And unless you've been to New Orleans or you grew up there, I don't think people really understand what occurs there. It's really not like any other city in America. It's just wild. The wildest things happen. You won't imagine it until you've experienced it. So that was my teenage life. But when I left at 17, I moved to Los Angeles. I knew no one, but I was willing to make that move to kind of get out of New Orleans and try to make something of my life rather than succumb to that side of my life. So at 17, I moved to Los Angeles, and New Orleans. I was raised to be a very independent woman, never to depend on anyone, much less a man. So I grappled with that and being that independent for a long time. And when I finally married Grant and was even in a relationship with him, for the first 4 years, I had a real big power struggle about this male-female role situation. And then when the economic collapse occurred in 2008, was actually the thing that kind of catapulted me into having to really look at the cold, hard facts of things. And that was the turning point for me, where I was willing to trade in my acting career, or lack of at that point, because I found myself pregnant with our first child in 2008. So the roles were slim to none for me then. But it was at that point where I decided, I was willing to trade up in order to trade up for what we have now with our empire. So, and ironically, going through that whole experience has made me more powerful as a woman, having to be side by side by a man and depend on him. He just walked in. Thank you. And having to depend on him and vice versa. That's one of the things that I realized, like, women are suffering through this thing, or not all of them, but certainly the ones similar to me, we're suffering from, we have to be this strong, independent woman, but I was cutting my nose off and spite my face, because in having to do everything myself and never depend on anyone, I couldn't expand, I couldn't grow, I was overexhausted, I wasn't winning, I wasn't getting this far. But when I finally figured out how to work together with my husband in a coordinated effort, I realized, wow, we can share the workload. I can bring 100%, he can bring 100%, and we can operate at full levels. And I've discovered that 2 is stronger than 1 on any day of the week. And so now I'm on this mission to be transparent and to help all the other people that are in a similar situation as I was, because I want to help them fast track their way to heightened success.
What a great realization. I mean, there's so many couples that do work together, and when you figured that part out of it, about you don't have to necessarily be competing with each other, but you can complement each other. I think that's a great realization.
Exactly. I mean, we do compete at every single thing, but at least we know we're on the same team. We know what our goals, our purposes are. His wins are my wins are his wins. And so, we've really fortified as a couple, and that's really what's helped unite us and make us stronger to conquer the world, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
So I love.
like I just wanted to clarify, like he like I don't say Grant made me who I am or made me more powerful or more independent, ironically. But it was, however, through the challenges that I was put through being married to him and having to figure out solutions and rise to my own potential to get through a scenario that has helped me figure out who I am as a woman. So ironically, I found my true strength and power as a woman through a man, is what I'm trying to say. Not that he gave me anything.
Right.
Well, I loved it when you talked about the prenup story. You should share that because that's a good one.
Well, Grant hates that story and couldn't believe how good it was. So, and he just walked in, so now he's in the next room over. So I'm like terrified to even mention it. But yeah, he wanted a prenup, and I don't blame him. I really don't. But at the time, I was like, you know what? I was never a girl that ever envisioned herself being married with kids. I mean, there's a reason for that. I didn't want to give my heart to anyone. I didn't want to be vulnerable and be hurt, which is really where that came. But I was never this person that wanted to be in love. I was always independent. How dare you? I work for everything. Every single guy I had been with before Grant that I tried or attempted to be in a long-standing relationship with, I funded everything. I was the breadwinner. So how dare he insult me like that? And I just was like, you know what? I'm not going to marry you with a prenup. Like if you're going into this thing with an out, then you're not the one. Like, that's not how I want to start our deal. Like, if you don't know that I'm going to be in this because I said yes to you because I'm finally going to commit, then you're not really the right one for me either, because this wasn't really like the thing that you asked me to marry you, and now you're going to ask me for prenup? I don't think so.
I love that.
Yeah. So you've said before that, it takes giving greatness to get greatness. Can you expand on that a little bit more and what that means?
Yeah, that came out of, that's a long story. That came out of a list that I wrote. Okay. So in order to find, like, before I was interested in ever being married or ever being in a long-term relationship for that matter, I finally had written this list one night. I was doing some girl event. You know how girls are. We write all of our lists, and this is the guy, and it's going to attract you, and all that normal stuff that I'm like roll my eyes at normally. But I did this night, and it actually changed my life forever. So I really owe a big thanks to those women that had that eye-rolling experience for me. But I wrote this list of every single thing that I wanted on the list, from over 100 items on the list. And I had a couple of epiphanies after that list. I realized, that if that person on that list truly did exist, then I could be with one person for the rest of my life. So that was a big eye opener. And the second thing I realized was that I'm just not entitled to that person just because I think I'm so great. Whereas I felt at the time that there was a lot of people, at least at my event that night, that wrote all these amazing things of what they wanted from a guy, and just thought, well, because I'm a woman and I'm spectacular and I'm great, I just deserve all of that. That's not what occurred for me. What I realized was, I realized that perfect man that I had written down, what would his list of his perfect woman look like? And so I wrote another list of what that woman would look like. And it didn't look like anything that I was at that time. So I went, if that man wrote a list, that man would want a woman who would want to be married, who would probably want to have kids, who wouldn't be doing recreational drug use, who wouldn't be excessively drinking alcohol and partying in nightclubs, all of which I was doing at the time. So I realized, hey, if I wanted the greatness, it was never going to show up in my life without me being the thing first. So that's when I kind of went on this plan just for fun, this experiment. And that's when I kind of eliminated drugs and alcohol. And I started doing all these self-enhancement courses and doing things that I could fill myself with to give myself more confidence, like real confidence, not just like pretend confidence. And so I started making myself better. So that's where I come up with the concept that if you want greatness, you have to be greatness, because, it's just, you can't expect something out of somebody that you aren't to invest and do for yourself first. And that goes with anything. I wouldn't ask an employee to do anything I wasn't willing to do. If I want romance in my relationship, that's more kind of my role. That's not Grant's role. So if I want the romance, I have to create the romance. I depend on Grant for other aspects of our relationship, but that's not his strong suit. I know that's his weakness. And so where his weakness is, I have to counter and help and keep that in to help him and to help us still maintain. So I can't just put it all on him. Like, I understand certain things that I'm going to have to be willing to create if I want it.
That concept is so eye-opening, and it was to me when I listened to it earlier, and it's amazing, and you've really come a long way. And I know in life we all experience different struggles. Can you think of one point in life when you thought it was maybe your most difficult struggle and how you overcame it?
Wait, did you ask me what was my most difficult struggle?
What's been your most difficult, we've all had several, but what's been your most difficult struggle that you've had to deal with, and how did you overcome it? A lot of the show is about how we encourage other people, and we think so much of what you have to say and share. We'd love to hear that from you.
Well, my most difficult struggle, and I wrote this in my book, which I never liked to talk about before, I wrote it out. I hate talking about feelings and all that stuff. I just deal with feelings and I move on anyway. But the most difficult thing that I went through was at the age of 14, when I witnessed my best friend perish in a fire right across the street. And at 14, having to visually confront the trauma of seeing something so brutal was something that I was not equipped with at 14 years old, and knowing how to deal with that trauma. And even though I came from a very loving household, my parents were not alcoholics, I was not beaten, I was really loved and cared for, but my parents, my father, especially being fought in World War II, is, we didn't really kind of express our emotions well. And I had come off of a period where I was a tomboy from, I was just starting to find my girlhood at 14, but I was always, being a tomboy, it was always never cry. Like, the neighborhood boys would cry before I would. So I was very good at being able to swallow my emotions and put up a very tough front. But that was so challenging for me, because the next day I was expected to go to school, and I did go to school, and having to suppress all of the pain and the tears and the sobbing that was going on inside of my body that I had to suppress down at that time through that whole period of my life was extremely agonizing for me. And I didn't know how to deal with that. So I went down a very dark road. I self-medicated. I took lots of street drugs and excessively drank alcohol, and really delved into that kind of New Orleans lifestyle that I was talking about earlier. And then when I was 17, after I had lost multiple friends after that, because of that lifestyle and what that brings, including overdosing and suicide and car accident and whatever, I realized I had a decision to make. I could continue down that road, or I could kind of try to think of myself. And it was one night that I had an epiphany, a realization that my friend Goldie, if she were alive or looking down on me, that she would be extremely upset and that I was using her life as a reason to wreck mine and be so miserable. Because what does any loved one want the most for you? They want you to be happy. That's all they want for you. So for me, being in so much pain and anguish and causing so much destruction to myself and to others around me by the lifestyle I was participating in, was really doing a disservice to her legacy, her name, her, everything. So that's when at 17 I decided to move to Los Angeles and try to work out my issues and decide to turn my life around. And I didn't get perfect 17. It would have been a number of years later. Like I did my last and final drug, December 31st, 1999. So I haven't taken like a real drug. I even delivered 2 children naturally in my home with no epidural or anything since 1999. Other than, I don't know, Novocaine or something like that. So,
well, that's
so
amazing.
I was able to turn my life around, and another huge challenge for me was confronting life sober. I remember when I stopped doing drugs, I had partaken in drugs since my 13th birthday, but I didn't I didn't go heavy into that road until after my friend's death, which was when I was 14. But from that age into 99, I don't know how old I was back then. Y'all can do the math. 46. But the next hardest challenge for me was knowing how to operate in social circumstances without drinking or doing a drug. It was very challenging, and it was introverting for me. But once I figured out how to go to a party and just walk up to someone and say, "Hey, my name is Elena," then it kind of took over. And the more I realized I could really express myself and found my courage in situations of reading a book or doing an acting job sober or whatever. You're not sober like alcohol. Anyway, I was never an addict, but thank God. But that was another big challenge that I overcame and became more powerful as a result of really discovering who I am without having a dependency on some other thing to give me a false illusion that I'm better or more confident or creative or whatever thing I told myself.
That's great. So what was the tipping point from you started building an empire and when did you kind of start realizing, I'm becoming a success. I've overcome my, past and the issues that I've had. And, now that I've arrived, what did that feel like? And what was that tipping point and that process like?
I couldn't tell you. I joke and I laugh because Grant and I say to each other on a regular basis, when are we going to make it? When are we going to make it? Because every time we set a target and we achieve it, we've already set future targets and goals. So it's kind of like a dangling carrot. We never quite get it. Although I do recommend celebrating the wins along the way. That is really important. Grant and I probably do flunk the most at that.
So if you, Elena, could pick your very best advice for women out there, what one thing would you say?
For women, I would say become your own best friend. And really learn how to be a friend. How you treat your friends is how you should treat yourself. Meaning we don't invalidate each other. Other women don't, at least my friends don't. We hold each other accountable. We forgive each other. We pep talk them. And I would say learn to become your own best friend and hold yourself accountable, but forgive yourself and don't beat yourself up. If you need to learn a lesson from a situation, then adopt a policy that you can live by going forward to help prevent that situation from happening to you again. But continually look at what to be in the future and live today planning on becoming that woman. And for all the women out there that are willing to take on the responsibility of the power that you possess, and you're willing to live up to your potential and make a difference for the better, not just for yourselves, but for your families and your communities and for the world, then I applaud you. I admire you. I appreciate you. And I know your worth and your value to the world. So please, if you do think you can create an empire and build an empire, I plea of you to do so. The world needs more powerful women.
That's awesome. Very good. Tell us about your 10X events.
I did my first 10X Ladies event right at the back end of 10X GrowthCon this year. So that was in February. It is an event that I hold that has multiple powerful women speaking. It's a way that women can come together and hear and learn from other powerful women and how to apply certain datums to their lives to get the best results. So this last event I did was extremely successful. It also helps me to introduce the women audience into everything Cardone-wise. My husband and I, but he does the business division of that aspect of things. 15 businesses, Cardone Ventures, Cardone Capital, Cardone Enterprises, Cardone University. So my 10X Ladies events are ways to introduce ladies into not only just my content, but my husband's content, where they may not have found him on their own because maybe he's too abrasive for them, just like he was for me in the beginning. But I want all the women to have access to his data because I am his biggest fan. I've seen the rewards and the successes that have come from all over the world from people who implement his teaching. So that's one of the reasons why I do the 10X Ladies events. And if anyone wants to join, I do a free 10X Ladies event every Wednesday, which will be tomorrow, 10xladies.com/network. It's my free Zoom call for 10X ladies around the world so we can navigate these times together and become more powerful, stronger, more unstoppable on the other side. So if you want to join the 10X Ladies Network, I'd love to have you.
I love that.
That's great.
We know Stacy and I are both realtors. So we want to ask you, what do you think the biggest thing you can do as a realtor to change your business and to grow it, to make it big?
Gosh, I'm the wrong one. Y'all would know that better than me. I don't know the answer to that. I don't do probably what y'all do. I'm more known on multifamily, only because I've been around that, and that's what we do with Cardone Capital. We have 80,000 units, so I'm not very versed or familiar with single family or shopping center or storage. So I leave that to you guys. But I know for anything, you have to brand yourself and you do have to get known. And social mediums and your podcast, what you're doing, are a way for people to get to know you. And as Grant says, it's the best known product that wins, not the best product. Meaning, if you have the beauty elixir of life and it's not in the shelves, it's not on the shelves, chances are when I walk into Target or Walmart or Publix, my grocery store, I'm going to buy the Coca-Cola instead of the beautiful Stay Young elixir because it's the best known product. So
that's a great analogy. I love that.
That's
to make yourself known. That's from my husband. I learned that from him. So these podcasts that you're doing, getting yourself known, you stay on the forefront of people's minds, and there's the reason people don't do business with you is because you're an obscurity to them. So they either knew you and forgot you, or they never knew you. So both are your jobs to continue to be in front of people, because people have your money. People have the other end of the product that you want to exchange. So you have to include people in your ideas and your concepts and your imagination of how you can reach them.
That's great. You've got so much going on between business and family, and what keeps you motivated and energized to keep that pace?
I'm really connected to my purpose. I have a couple of purposes. Of course, I want financial for the world. I want people to be able to take care of their own families and not depend on an economy or a government to be able to feed their and provide for their families. I believe my husband has solutions for that. So that keeps me motivated because I want to help people. I do my Empire and my 10X Ladies and my ladies events because I really want to see women be valued for their role in society, own their role in society. And I really, truly want to see women empower other women, not in a we hate men type of way, because that's the furthest from the truth. I just want to see women empowering women to really own up to their full potential and be unapologetic about it. So that moves me. That's a passion of mine. And for all the little who were just like me, who came from, backgrounds like mine, like New Orleans, that really never saw big empires in their future or private planes or things of that nature. I want to be a leader that says, you know what, if I did it and can get through it, anyone can. With the right information and the right amount of action taken, you can have it all too. It isn't just for the select few. And that's what I believe. That's why I'm willing to be transparent. We don't have to do this anymore in our lifetime. We don't have to be open for attacks and haters and all the people that want to analyze my every single move. But I do it because what motivates me is if I can help fast track a little me, just like me was or is, then that's my motivation. I'm obligated to help and to make a difference for the better. And there are people out there that I have impacted the trajectory of their life, and that's my reward. So that's what keeps me motivated every day. I'm very linked into that cause, that mission, and I'm crazy enough and have the audacity enough to believe that I can do it on bigger levels. So,
Awesome.
until then, I'm going for it with everything that I've got.
So what's next? What have you not done that you want to accomplish?
Well, what's next is I want to do an annual Women's International Congress, which would be a stadium-sized a platform of women from around the world where we can meet again in groups, but like a 2-day kind of conference where we can meet and actually own our position as women and leave with a battle plan, leave with marching orders of what we need to do to go back into our lives, to become better versions of ourselves, to become better within family unit and operate at a higher level, and then out from there into the communities, into the business, into life-changing events. So that's what I really want to put together in the future on my aspect or end of things, as well as everything else, growing Cardone Capital and all my other interests. But the Women's International Congress is something that hasn't come into fruition. It's just an idea right now. But if I did that, I would really give myself a pat on the back and say, well done, continue.
Very good, very good. So is there any question that we haven't asked you that you wished we would have?
The question that people ask me lately, when they say, is there a question I haven't asked? It wasn't asked to me up until recently, but I would say, what is the one thing that you could change if you could change anything, if you could change it right now? And the answer to that is I would change the way women view themselves and the way even men view women, and to never just put a just in front of anything that we do. Eliminate just a mother or just a housewife, or just so and so at whatever your position is in your job. The just thing that invalidates women that we're doing to ourselves and maybe others as well. Doesn't matter where it came from. It's just, that's the one thing that I would change right now is, where women could really have self-confidence, and not in an entitled way or make wrong way, but from an earned position to where they have self-confidence, they are unapologetic, and they're willing to own their responsibility for the power that they possess and be validated and appreciated and for the role that they play in society, because it's so much more valuable than I feel it has been credited to.
Elena, you have been such an inspiration today. I love listening to you. I love your heart. Thank you so much for being a part of this and joining us today on North Texas Networkers. You are so appreciated. Glad to have you
Wow.
today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you both too. And thanks for inviting me on your show and introducing me to your audience. You're helping me in my mission when you do that. So thank you for the collaboration.
Thank you. Well, this is North Texas Networkers. You can see us every third Tuesday on the Mariposa Group Facebook page at 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And we are so glad for Craig Schrenk and Willow Bend Mortgage for being our sponsor today. And we look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Caralee.
I'm Stacy.
And we are your real estate professionals.
Thank you for joining us on North Texas Networkers.
Visit our website, mariposagroupdfw.com. That's MARIPOSA Group DFW.com for more information about the show and other resources. I'm Caralee.
And I'm Stacy.
And we are your real estate professionals.